Hey there, I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and it's the Nicki Minaj album Bahm week, and it's Billboard Breakdown.
I don't remember.
So album Bahm weeks at this time of year are weird, mostly because there's a hard limit on how much impact they can really have. I've been predicting that Nicki Minaj is going to get that album Bahm for a couple of weeks now, but between the let's call it mixed critical reception and the glut of holiday music near the very top of the charts, this was never going to be as big as she precisely wanted. And given that Tate McRae's impact was very manageable, this actually makes for an easier week for me, and I'm certainly not going to complain about that. Now anyway, our top 10, where given that we only have 2 non-holiday songs, you would think this would be pretty uneventful, but you would also be somewhat wrong, because we got a new and somewhat predictable number 1, All I Want for Christmas Is You by Mariah Carey, riding her strong streaming to match up with that sales boost and get that top spot. Look, it was inevitable, I'm not remotely surprised, but it is interesting that Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree by Brenda Lee actually held on at number 2 while still maintaining the top spot on streaming, which to me implies that the sales, they were that last little boost for Mariah, might not last. Now the next 3 we can chalk up to their streaming placements. Jingle Bell Rock by Bobby Helms is at number 3, Last Christmas by Wham at number 4, and A Holly Jolly Christmas by Burl Ives at number 5, which they all overtook Lovin' On Me by Jack Harlow down at number 6, which saw continued airplay growth, but just not enough to compensate for position losses on streaming. Then we got 2 more holiday songs with It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year by Andy Williams at number 7, and Sleigh Ride by the Ronettes rising into the top 10 at number 8, and then, as predicted and expected, thanks to the album impact, Greedy by Tate McRae saw a spike up to number 9. Even despite good radio placement, I don't really expect it to last in the top 10. Finally, Let It Snow by Dean Martin hit number 10, which doesn't really align with the streaming numbers, but maybe he got just enough of a radio edge to get that boost. It happens. But again, we are in an album Bahm week, and that means we got a significant number of losers and dropouts. And then in the latter category, there are some significant ones. Slime You Out by Drake and SZA, Rich Men North of Richmond by Oliver Anthony, both Bad Idea Right and Vampire by Olivia Rodrigo, 3D by Jungkook and Jack Harlow, Perro Negro by Bad Bunny and Fide, Great Gatsby by Rod Wave, Save Me by Jelly Roll and Lainey Wilson, and Now That We Don't Talk by Taylor Swift after having, frankly, a better run than I expected. And we also have a decent chunk of losers here too, with the only continued loss coming for Can't Have Mine by Dylan Scott down at 100, and the only gain seeing a collapse with You're Losing Me by Taylor Swift down at 68. What's notable about the losses here is that they nearly all happened lower on the Hot 100, where Nicki's album Bahm predominantly landed, with the only other songs above the top 50 taking blows being Fuck You Mean by Gunna at 50, First Person Shooter by Drake featuring J. Cole at 51, Drake also had I Don't Give a Fuck with Yeet down at 66, and You Broke My Heart fall to 83, and Virginia Beach at 98, and also Stick Season by Noah Kahan's down at 54. The rest, Harley Quinn by Fuerza Regida and Marshmello at 76, the former also saw a blow with Que Onda with Cali 24 and Chino Pacas at 92, Strangers by Kenya Grace at 78, 500 Pounds by Lil Tecca at 81, Can't Catch Me Now by Olivia Rodrigo at 84, man she had a rough week, and Truck Bed by Hardy at 85. And still to round it out, Kiona by Karol G and Pesa Pluma at 86, The Painter by Cody Johnson at 88, Segon Quien by Maluma and Karen Leon at 91, Hey Driver by Zach Bryan and the Warden Treaty at 97, and Standing Next to You by Jungkook at 99. Now, as expected, we didn't exactly get much in the way of returns or gains. Hell, to my surprise, all the returns we got were holiday songs, none from the album bombs, with Please Come Home for Christmas by the Eagles back at 45, Like It's Christmas by the Jonas Brothers at 46, and Happy Holidays by Andy Williams at 49. Now the gains make a little bit more sense. Tate McRae had X's surge back to 57 off the album, and the rest are just holiday songs fluctuating, like Little Saint Nick by the Beach Boys at 40, or Wonderful Christmas Time by Paul McCartney at 35, or Santa Baby by Eartha Kitt at 31, or It's Beginning to Look a Lot Like Christmas by Perry Como retaking all of its losses at 24. I wonder why it saw such a huge fluctuation. That's just kind of weird. But again, anyway, we are in large large album bomb territory absolutely for Nicki Minaj, especially as I already reviewed the album at length on my main channel. So outside of the top 20 and the best or worst, Bahm Bahm at 95, Pink Birthday at 89, Pink Friday Girls at 82, R&B with Lil Wayne and Tate McRae at 80, Fallin for You at 74, Big Difference at 73, Beep Beep at 64, Barbie Dangerous at 58, FTCU at 42, and Needle with Drake at 34. And you know what? That makes our list of new arrivals pretty succinct to get through. I'm not complaining. So let's start off with number 87, Cowgirl by Nicki Minaj featuring Lourdiz. You know, in a year where we got a Morgan Wallen and Ernest country trap collab called Cowgirls, I'm a little bit shocked that we actually got a worse song with nearly the same title. But here we go, the limp acoustic guitar, the painfully cheap trap percussion where the bass that distorts the mix, the faint shouting, my god, Dr. Luke cannot produce trap to save his life, and the hazy, vacant vocals from Lourdiz, another of Dr. Luke's proteges who has done precisely nothing outside of taking cheap shots at Kesha. Classy. But at least Kesha has a personality compared to Nicki Minaj placing insert verse for two utterly interchangeable flexes full of brand name porn, filler bars, and half-formed sex references where it's probably the best not to think that hard about them. She certainly didn't. I'm honestly shocked that it does not have a big overused sample in order to match with the rest of the low-grade crappiness on display on this song. So yeah, it sucks. Next. Number 69, Run for the Hills by Tate McRae. I honestly expected more Tate McRae songs to show up this week. I guess RCA hasn't fully figured out how to make her a priority on streaming, but given their usual incompetence, it's not that surprising. Now anyway, much to all of your disappointment, this is not Tate McRae covering Iron Maiden. Instead sounding like a washed out late 2010s trap pop song that Camila Cabello probably would have rejected, down to all the vocal runs that come up on the hook. Now for what it's worth, I don't think this is badly produced. It's got a little bit of atmosphere, and I don't mind the content. Tate McRae knows that hooking up with this guy is a really bad idea, right? With all the bad hookup that should have her running, but it's just so irresistible. And her sound incredibly nervous is not a new or bad dimension to add. But I also think the song is missing another gear, another level of darkness or melodrama to take it to another level, and barely running over 2 minutes, it just does not get there. It's not bad per se, but like the rest of Think Later, not exactly interesting or memorable. Number 63, Let Me Calm Down by Nicki Minaj featuring J. Cole. It's still weird to me that Nicki Minaj got a J. Cole verse. I know they're contemporaries, they actually came up in a similar time, but Cole's attempts at introspection seem to be on a different planet than a lot of the plastic flair that Nicki delivers. But credit to her, I actually like her verse, where she fights against her own mingled desires to be alone in her own space or just fight it out with her partner. And pairing it with a lot of the hazy vocal samples that are singing, well, okay, the vocal mastering's more compressed and processed than I would prefer when she is singing, but it's not bad if I'm being honest. And Cole's verse, from a sheer rapping standpoint, is actually really good, as he tries to play the guy that's giving advice to Nicki's partner about how to work with her, hold her down, keep the family together, especially for their kid. Does it feel a little pushy or like an overshare? And would her partner potentially give him the side eye at being compared to Will Smith given the past couple of years? Yeah, you know what, probably, but in fairness to J. Cole, I don't say this often, I think his intentions were good, and he's long had a tendency to go a little bit too far with said good intentions. That being said, it's one of the more introspective cuts on the album. I actually think it's pretty good, similar to number 60, Are You Gone Already by Nicki Minaj.
Mama on my toes, I needed help. You booked the flight, in 3 days you'd meet Papa.
Yep, I know. I'm in the minority of folks who actually like this song, and that's not to say there aren't problems here. I don't like that it's the opening track and setting the tone for the album, even if it does make a certain amount of sense as a bookend. The sample of When the Party's Over by Billie Eilish, it feels very overused, especially when including the bridge, and the recency of the sample from being in 2019, it feels like a reach. That being said, with the idea of sampling this song in this way, I think Nicki Minaj made about as good of a song as she could have gotten. I like that she got Phineas to produce it. The vocal mix is considerably better than the majority of her album. And I really like how seriously she took the song in discussing her father's hit and run death, and then framing this all as talking to her child, where she knows that said child will never know her father, but we'll also know far more about Nicki in the public eye and her own missteps and unhappiness, even in the face of success. Honestly, the song kind of suffers in comparison with the rest of the album because it promised a more introspective and mature project for Nicki that we ultimately didn't get. But you know what? I don't think that's completely fair to take away from a really good song that I like. I will recommend this. Unlike, say, number 26, Everybody by Nicki Minaj featuring Lil Uzi Vert.
We gon' spin and kill. Deep in the spot. A nigga telling now.
So this is a bit of a weird one to discuss, mostly because I was not that familiar with Move Your Feet by Junior Senior. It was apparently big about 20 years ago, but it never really came up on the radio that I was hearing in the early 2000s in Canada. What I can say is that the sample integration here is terrible. Both Nicki and Uzi uses it as a cheap excuse to barely finish their rhymes, and for Uzi to dump in a bunch of interpolations of Just Wanna Rock amidst their usual debauchery and flexing. But I'd argue that Nicki is the bigger spoiler of the tone here. Move Your Feet is very jaunty and upbeat, damn near pop friendly, and yet Nicki loads her bars with a lot of gun references and some of the most phoned in sex lines that she's ever had, at least on this album. It leads to a song that screams of laziness on all fronts, and my continued assertion that Uzi and Nicki have shockingly little chemistry. They got intensity, but the interplay is non-existent, and they only engage with each other at the most disposable and shallow, and again, the tone of the song is just off. In other words, yeah, didn't like this, didn't care for it at all, and yeah, that's our week. Nice to keep things short, where Nicki picks up all the spots here. Worst is going to Cowgirl with Lourdiz, with dishonorable mention for Everybody with Lil Uzi Vert. But the best is going to Are You Gone Already, with honorable mention to Let Me Calm Down with J. Cole. Yeah, I said it. Next week, well, provided it's not delayed because of the timing of Christmas and Boxing Day, might be a bit of a shit show with the album bomb fallout. We will have to see. But until then, I'm Mark. You're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse. And I'll see you next time.